Hey, this is my soundtrack tag video, and this is actually a game that was created by the YouTube channel Miss 80. And I've been seeing other people's soundtrack tag videos, and it's been really fun to get to know their collection. So props for her for inventing this game. It's really cool. And then I actually got tagged by my friend Mark from the YouTube channel Popcorn and Vinyl. So thanks, Mark, for tagging me. That was really cool. That was a really great surprise at the end of your video. Is anyone seeing this? Go check out his video. His video is really fun too. And go to Miss 80's YouTube channel too and check out her videos as well. She has a playlist of basically the people who have done their soundtrack tag video. And I just think it's a really fun way for the soundtrack vinyl community to share some stories about, the music they love and how they got into this and all that stuff. So here's my video. Question number 1. How many soundtracks do you own? I did the count for this, and I think it's 200 plus vinyls, and I only buy soundtracks on vinyl. I told myself I cannot buy popular music on vinyl because I would go broke, which actually I broke that rule a couple of months ago because I bought the George Harrison All Things Must Pass 50th anniversary box set. That one just broke my rule, and now I've started buying popular music, but for the most part, it's only soundtracks on vinyl, 200 plus. And then CDs, because I also got CDs, and I actually started buying CDs recently. I have 500 plus CDs, also mostly just soundtracks too. Question number 2, the first soundtrack I ever bought. My first soundtrack, it was a compilation. It was a gift from someone. It was a John Williams Boston Pop Orchestra compilation. So that was a gift. But the one that I first bought with my money, it was this CD right here, John Williams' Greatest Hits 1969 to 1999. This for me is like a big bang. This is where it all really started. Without a doubt, there isn't a more important album in my life than this. I've gone from the first CD being my favorite to the second one to this track, and it just like there's stages where each track I think has been my favorite from the CD. That's how much I loved it. And I loved it even so that I even got, this is a sheet music book. And it's actually, I've unfortunately never ever quite played one whole piece. I've gotten close, but what's really cool about this book, it's also not an easy piano book. It's actually quite challenging. The arrangements are really cool, which if you do practice and get them, they sound really cool. But again, it's the sheet music from this album, and I mean, this not just only started my love for film music, but I mean, I even went and studied composition because I wanted to be a film composer at one point. So I even studied that. And it's all traced down to like this big bang. So this is the most important album for sure. Question number 3 is the most recent soundtrack purchase I added to my collection. Well, the most recent one I bought was the Mondo Dune soundtrack, but that's a pre-order. It's not here. But the most recent one, which I actually received yesterday, I'm really excited because I bought this record, I think, in August 2020. And we all know the massive delays and Adele Gate and all those things. So I waited a long time and I received it yesterday. And it's this right here. This is the Sea of Thieves from the record label I Am 8-Bit. This is music composed by Robin Beanland for the video game Sea of Thieves. And this game is really fun. I love this game. It's a pirates game. It's basically Grand Theft Auto means pirates, which basically translate into going around and stealing treasure, or in my case, getting treasure stolen from you. You go around open sea, you navigate. It's super fun. And I'm a sucker for pirates music. I really like it. So I waited a long time for this, and I gotta say that not disappoint. It is fantastic. It's probably one of the most expensive records I bought. It was actually for 3 LPs, $100, which is really, but it comes with, first off, like the packaging, everything is fantastic. It comes with a booklet inside, and it's just really good. Like it's worth the wait, worth the money, and that's what you hope for when you buy like a collector's piece like this. So I'm really excited. Question number 4, what is your most listened to soundtrack? Some of you, if you watch my channel and you've seen the John Williams draft that I just posted, you can see the fuss that was made when I lost to Hook, because that is my most listened to. That's my favorite score, Hook by John Williams. I can I can count in my hands the albums that I've listened to since I was 17 or 18 that I've not grown tired of. They're very few, and that is On the Top of the Mountain. I don't get tired of listening to that album. It's just fantastic. I can be stuck in traffic and it comes on and I'm like it grabs my attention. I'm captivated. I'm emotionally moved. It's just fantastic. A fun FYI, I actually started working on a hook video for Gigawatts. I was 2 weeks into it, right? I mean, more than 2 weeks. I've written the script, I've done animation. I had like 3 minutes animated, just done a lot of work. And I was just like, and I abandoned it because I was like, this isn't good enough. This isn't, I haven't cracked it. So it's sitting there on a hard drive. I don't know. Maybe one day I'll be brave enough to tackle that score as a video essay, as a video for Gigawatts. But yeah, that's how much I like that score. That video was not worthy of it. Question number 5: best opening song to a soundtrack. This is a really cool question, and I just to have more fun, I interpreted both ways: a song and a score. So for song, I have to say, is there a better opening than Ghostbusters by Ray Parker Jr. on the Ghostbusters soundtrack? Which I think it's one of the best movie songs ever. Difficult to beat that, but in order to give a more fun, different answer, there's this Will Ferrell movie called Casa de Mi Padre. And I really like the soundtrack. And the opening track features an original song for the movie by Christina Aguilera. And it's basically, think Westerns meets James Bond. That is the type of song. It's fantastic. I feel it's so underrated. And the track, basically, the album begins with like a quick dialogue from the movie, and then you go into the track, and the track just begins with Christina just screaming La Casa de Mi Padre, and then all the instruments, the orchestra, the drums, just everything just kind of kicks like a punch, and I just get goosebumps. So good. I love that track. So that's my favorite opening. And then for score, just for fun, I can't think of a better opening than the Blade Runner soundtrack for me. It's that track begins and I just get transported somewhere. The tone, the ambient, the feeling I get, it's unlike anything else. But again, I want to give a more interesting answer and not something so obvious. So another good option is Moon by Clint Mansell. That soundtrack, I feel like the opening track has a really good. It's like 7 minutes long and it's so good. I know this is already my third option. I'm probably cheating, but Coraline by Brutal Qualis, I thought was a really fun option because actually the album begins with the end credits, which I think it's really fun. And yes, the end credits are really good. It actually starts with like this bass, deep bass, like just boom. And then the strings come in and it's just instant goosebump. You press play and you're automatically at the goosebump section for me. So I love that soundtrack. Question number 6: favorite composer and your favorite track from them. No mystery here. It's John Williams, and as you probably can tell, it's Hook. But the track specifically, Remembering Childhood. Remembering Childhood to me is like my favorite 11 minutes of music. It really transports me. Like actually Remembering Childhood, the title, makes really sense because that's what it feels like. It just brings me back to a time and a place. No matter where I'm at, I can listen to that track and I'll be emotionally moved. It never ceases to amaze me like how it can like just transport me somewhere all the time. Never get tired of it. Question number 7: a movie that has a blockbuster soundtrack. So I kind of don't have an answer for this, and my reason is, first off, I kind of just really like to focus on celebrating the things I love, and then the things I don't. I think Time and Silence is the best critic. So I would say all the soundtracks that I've listened to that I don't remember and I don't talk about them and they're just forgotten, those to me are like blockbuster soundtracks. So Time and Silence, the best critics in my opinion. Question number 8: a movie soundtrack that was better than the movie. And this is perhaps my favorite question on the tag because I think this happens a lot. There's some stinker of movies that have amazing soundtracks. The first one that comes to mind, I would have to say, would be John Carter's by Michael Giacchino. I love the score. It's a great sci-fi adventure, probably my two favorite genres of a score. And I remember that he released some preview tracks ahead of the movie, and I was so hyped for the film. I went and watched the film, and I was, it wasn't that bad of a movie, but definitely not to the par of the score. I don't think is as bad as a movie as the reputation precedes it, but the score, I think it's fantastic and definitely on a whole other league than the film. I'm gonna cheat. I'm gonna do some honorable mentions here because I could go on for hours with these questions. But Van Helsing by Alan Silvestri, love that score. Love the score. The first two tracks just feels like hell is like knocking on your door. It's so bombastic. It's so in your face. I love it. The movie, I actually enjoy the film. I don't think it's that horrible. Like it knows what it is, but still, when you like the score is just a whole different level of quality than the film. So that's a really good one. And then the last one, honorable mention would be Matinee by Jerry Goldsmith. One of my favorite Jerry Goldsmith film for a movie that, yeah, it's just not that great, but the score is just really, really good and really, really unique. So I love it. Question number 9, favorite artwork or color vinyl. My choice is Kubo and the Two Strings. The score is by Dario Maranelli, and it features artwork from Cesar Moreno. This is a Mondo release. Something about I like the movie. I really like the movie, and I really like the score. But something about just Cesar Moreno's artwork here, I just love. I just love staring into this artwork. And ever since this came out, I've followed Cesar Moreno on his account and keep up with his artwork and everything he kind of does. I just really like his style. I even got a poster that Cesar Moreno did for Mondo and Kubo and the Two Strings. It's not the artwork feature in the album, but still, it's also really cool. And I just really like his style. And then for color vinyl, so if someone comes over to my place and they see my collection, they ask a couple of questions, I get excited and be like, oh, so you want to see something cool? This is always one that I kind of show them because I think it's really cool. But this is for the movie Hot Fuzz. It's another Mondo release. It's music by David Arnold. And this is supposed to be like a beer top colorway, which first off, I actually think it really looks like a beer. It looks really cool. But to me, more importantly, like it connects this to the movie in a story way. There's a story decision here. It's not just that it looks cool, but it ties to the movie in a really great way, story wise. So I think to me, that's the perfect sweet spot when it not just only looks cool, but it has some meaning with the story. I think that's really great. So this is probably my favorite. Question number 10, a soundtrack that needs reissuing or a first time pressing. Well, reissuing, I would say Batman the Animated Series Volume 1 box set by Mondo because I'm a huge Batman the Animated Series fan. And when that box set came out, I was at a point where I just started really buying records and the price tag was just something I still had not spent to. I was like, I don't know. And I passed and I regret it ever since because it features my favorite episode from the series, which is Beware of the Great Ghost. That's my favorite episode. It's my favorite score from the episode. And I got volume 2, so I'm really hoping that volume 1 comes around and I can add it to the collection. And then I would say for CDs, because I want to give CDs some love too, Jurassic Park John Williams collection from La La Land Records. I wasn't buying CDs when that came out. Now that I am really buying them, I missed out and it's so expensive online. I'm not paying that money for it. So just sit and wait and hopefully La La Land Records reissues it. First time pressing. I've mentioned this in some of the best of videos that I've done with David from the Vinyl Score, Mark from Popcorn Vinyl. Jumanji by James Horner. Love that score. Not only do I love that score, I feel like there's so many cool creative options you can do with packaging with their, I don't know, like a wood slipcase or something that mimics that, the game or the opening, or there's just really a lot of creative opportunities that, again, storytelling ties it to the movie. And I want to see what someone does with that. So, yeah. Question number 11, a bargain bin soundtrack you bought. And I have a really good story with this. So I live in LA and there's a store here called Amoeba Hollywood. And it's a gigantic store. I really wouldn't doubt if it's one of the biggest, if not the biggest in United States. And their soundtrack section is really good. Actually, a lot of stores in LA have really good soundtrack sections. I don't know if it's that because the film industry is here, but so Amoeba has a really good soundtrack section, and they have a bargain bin section that sells soundtracks for $1. And basically, if you buy 3, you get the fourth one free. So you can technically buy 4 soundtracks for $3. It's fantastic. That's how I made most of my collection. But like I said, I'm a very big Batman the Animated Series fan. When I started buying CDs recently, there's one that stuck out as like something I just not gonna have because I'm not gonna pay that money, and it's Batman Mask the Phantasm, the extended release by La La Land Records. It's really expensive. It was released a while back, so the chances were very, very slim. And Amoeba had actually a copy of it for sale for $125, and it was behind this glass casing and everything. So I would walk by it every once in a while and like wave it to it, do the whole Wayne's World, well, you will be mine. Flash forward a couple of months ago, I'm going through the bargain bins, and what do I see? I see a copy of Batman: The Mask of the Phantasm for $1.99, and I'm like, what the? But then I see a sticker that says missing second CD, and I'm like, oh, okay, so that's the catch. It's missing a CD, and but I was like, hey, $1.99 for half of the score, but the booklet and everything, like, this is a steal. And I basically went straight to the cashier, paid for it, exited the store before they realized the mistake they have done. Now I'm at home, I'm ripping the CD to add it to my digital collection, and I already had it digitally MP3, but I was ripping now so I could get the flag, whatever, better quality. And I realized once the rip was finished that I had the same amount of tracks as my MP3 version. So I'm like, what's going on here? And then I look at the back of the case, and it doesn't have anything about a second CD. But I open my version and it flips, there's an empty spot for a second CD. I Googled online, see if I can see photos, and there's nothing anywhere about a second CD. So my theory is this is what happened. What I think what happened is someone had it, transferred it to a second CD case, then went to Amoeba, put it up as a trade-in. Someone who doesn't know saw it and was like, oh, this is a 2 CD. Do you only have one? They put it in the bargain bin, but it's not. It's all there. So yes, I even took a photo of this because I couldn't believe it. This is my best bargain buy ever. I don't think I'll ever top this. This was a great day, to say the least. Question number 12, a soundtrack that includes your favorite artist. My favorite artist is probably David Bowie. So Labyrinth, where he also stars, and Magic Dance, that's my favorite song from that album, the soundtrack. So Labyrinth by David Bowie, that's my pick. Question number 13, a soundtrack where an actor from the movie also performs in the album. And I hope this isn't cheating, but my pick is The Nightmare Before Christmas by Danny Elfman. He wrote the score, he performed the songs, but he's also the voice of Jack Skellington, the singing voice. So he's definitely acting, so that's my pick. And just Danny Elfman is one of my favorite rock voices, like a singing voices. I love his work with Oingo Boingo, his work with Weird Science, Nightmare Before Christmas, Wanted. So I just really like his voice, and the music he wrote for Nightmare Before Christmas is among my favorite. Question number 14, a soundtrack where a band or artist actually perform in the movie. This was a really tough question. I think this was the hardest questions, but the one that I thought about was, it's a movie I watched as a kid, but The Flintstones. And B-52 performs in the movie. There's a sequence where they're performing and everyone's dancing and all that stuff. And they're performing the Bedrock Twitch. You go, Twitch, Twitch. So that is my pick. And actually, shout out to a podcast called Deep Cuts Lost and Found. It's a podcast I've been listening to lately, and they go year by year and they deep dive into underrated songs. And they picked B-52's earlier work in one episode. And I gotta say, B-52's early stuff is really, really cool. I only knew their hits, but their early stuff is really cool. So thanks for that podcast for being a gateway for that. Yeah. Question number 15, the last movie that you saw that you also own a soundtrack for. The Batman, soundtrack by Michael Giacchino. Love the film, love his score, love his take on Batman. I order it from Mondo, their vinyl release. It's a pre-order, but that's the last one I saw and have the soundtrack for. Question number 16, our record store day release. And my pick for this is The Heart of Batman. So this is the score for a making of documentary of the Batman the Animated Series. And the music is by Makeup and Vanity Set. And they are a very cool synthwave band. I really like their music. I like synthwave and synthesizers, as you can tell. But yeah, when I saw that this was announced, and this is by Sound Machine record label, which I did know nothing about. I still haven't seen anything from them. I just don't have much information from them. But I have to say, I'm glad I really got this because this turned out to be a really cool purchase. This definitely spins a lot in the turntable. Question number 17, a soundtrack from the year you were born. So my year is 1986, and I had some good choices there because I could have gone Aliens, An American Tale, both James Horner scores. But I went with The Great Mouse Detective by Henry Mancini. And obviously, Henry Mancini from the James Bond films and all that stuff. But I really, really like this score. I remember watching this film as a kid. And the main title track, the first one in the album, main title track, is just so energetic. And it just really takes me back to just really enjoying that film and watching that as a kid. So that's my pick. Question number 18, a soundtrack or score that you bought without knowing it, a blind buy. As I said, I started buying CDs recently, so there was a lot of CDs from La La Land Records that I didn't own that I wanted, especially John Williams one. And now I've had to pay more than what they sold for when they came out. So when La La Land Records announced Always by John Williams from the Spielberg film, I really was not familiar with the score. I might have listened to one track of it because there's the Spielberg Williams collaboration release has one track from the film, but apart from that, I really did not know the score, and I didn't want to overpay in the future when I do actually end up knowing the score and wanted to listen to. So yeah, so I bought this without really knowing the score, and I have to say I absolutely love it now. It's one of the most listened scores right now at the moment for me. And the reason I really like this album is because first of the sound of it, it's basically John Williams doing his 80s movie magic, optimistic melodies like Reach for the Stars kind of feeling that no one can do better except him. And it also has a really good relaxing energy to it. Just a record that I put on when I'm like winding down or want to be reflective or something. But what makes it a really cool listening experience is that besides one track, all of the tracks are the same kind of energy and tone. So it's definitely press play and you can let it, set it and forget it and just enjoy and still be in that same tone and energy, which it doesn't always really happen in score albums. Question number 19, a soundtrack that you own in multiple formats. Well, I obviously own Hook on CD, the La La Land extended release, the Hook original CD. I also have a Japan 1992 vinyl release, and I got them on the one. But my legit answer for this is Lord of the Rings, The Complete Recordings by Howard Shore, one of my favorite all-time film scores. I was lucky enough to grab these on vinyl. I have the three of them, Fellowship, Two Towers, Return of the King, and vinyl, the box sets. I also, the same time, bought them in Blu-ray audio, which features a 5.1 surround sound mix. Also comes in CD. I mean, I even have the Doug Adams book about the music of Lord of the Rings, which is my favorite book about film music. He basically follows Howard Shore throughout the whole process of him creating the score for the Lord of the Rings trilogy. Couldn't recommend it more to anyone who's a fan of, obviously, the music, the movie, or just film music in general. It's great. Question number 20, a soundtrack that always lifts your mood. Great question. This is a really fun one. My pick would be Little Women by Alexandre Desplat. And I really like the film. And that film came out in the holiday season, December. And that's always my favorite season. You know, vacation, eating, family, friends. And the score of that film is very relaxing and has this really warm feeling. It's like, feels like a warm cup of tea or like a blanket. It just makes me feel cozy and reminds me of the holiday season and just get me in that mindset throughout the year. So I kind of go to it for that. And then another answer for this, if I can do an honorable mention would be March of the Penguins by Alex Werman. And the reason for this is a quirky interpretation of this question, but I'm originally from Puerto Rico. I lived there until I was 25. Now live in Los Angeles. Both places, they get really, really hot, warm weather, and sometimes I want to, my way of escaping it is by putting on the March of the Penguins score, which is a score that I really, really like. But also, that score just takes the edge out of the hot weather. For some reason, I just feel like it brings me down a bit. And it feels like I'm getting like a cold breeze going through me when I put down the score. So I kind of go through it when I don't want to feel like I'm sweating and I'm dreading summer. Mark's video had a couple of bonus questions, which I obviously want to answer them because this is really fun. So I'm going to answer the bonus questions too, which is question number 21 was your favorite video game soundtrack? Obvious question will be Final Fantasy VII, but to make things interesting and not so obvious, but I'm going to say a more recent release to make things more interesting, but Cuphead, which is a video game that became really famous by its use of inspiration in the 1920s, 1930s animation. And it's a run and gun shooting game, and it's really fun, really, really difficult to play. But the soundtrack also borrows a page from that, and it takes inspiration in the genres popular at that in that animation, which is like ragtime, swing music, jazz music. But it's not only the genres, the melodies are just also really catchy. Those arrangements are so good. And I have this really cool Cuphead 4LP release of the soundtrack. This is again from IN 8-bit, and they specialize in video game soundtracks. Not that's important, but this is actually quite like the hard to get expensive soundtrack because apparently they made low quantity of this, so it's kind of hard to get. But I don't care about that. I just care that the music. I just really like the score, and I really love this release. It again, it ties with that old vinyl timey feeling, which ties to the game, the story. It's all tied by storytelling, which is my thing. So I really like it. On a quick honorable mention, shout out to Apsu by Austin Wintory, because Austin Wintory, I think, has been like a gateway composer for me last couple of months to really get to know video game soundtracks. And Apsu is my favorite from him. It's a video game where you basically go underwater. It's supposed to be this like meditative, reflective game. And the music, I think he uses like 12 harps in a couple of arrangements, and it feels like just very like underwater, majestic, relaxing music, if that makes a sense. But yeah, shout out to Austin Wintory there. Bonus question number 22, favorite soundtrack for a TV show. This is really easy. My favorite TV show is *Halt and Catch Fire*. My favorite soundtrack for a TV show is *Halt and Catch Fire* by Paul Hassinger. Again, I like synthesizers a lot. This is another synthwave soundtrack, and I think you should definitely check out the show if you haven't. It's on Netflix. You can watch it. And I actually, FYI, I started a video for Jigowatts on *Halt and Catch Fire*. It's not about the music, but it is about the show because I just think the show does just a really good job at portraying creativity and creative people and the choices they go in life and the things. And their four characters are kind of, they all represent like a different side of creativity, and I just find it really interesting. So could not recommend that TV show more. It's my favorite. Definitely check it out if you don't know it. Question number 23, the best soundtrack that was recommended to you by someone else. And I actually made a video with Mark from Popcorn Vinyl and David from the Vinyl Score. And in that video, Mark picked as his number one from that year the release of Total Recall by Jerry Goldsmith. And I said in that video, I was like, oh, I don't really know the score, and I haven't seen the film. And his jaw dropped. And I know, it's a Jerry Goldsmith score. So I checked it out, and yes, it is a classic. It's fantastic. I mean, what else can be said? It's a Jerry Goldsmith score. So I love it. I love that score right now. And it's all thanks to Mark's recommendation on that video. So that's my pick. Question number 24, what soundtrack do you use as a gateway to get other people interested in soundtracks? I usually go for soundtracks that have popular artists that they might know already. Think Social Network, Trent Reznor, or Daft Punk with Tron Legacy. But I also try to go a step further and ask them, like, what are you a fan of? Like, what do you like? And for example, I had a friend who was a really big Rage Against the Machine fan. And I asked him, "Have you seen Pacific Rim? You know, it's a movie that actually features a score by Ramin Djawadi, but it also features performances by Tom Morello. He makes this really cool guitar. He has this really cool guitar performances throughout that score. So I try to find something they already like and see if I can find something in film music that, can connect that, and that's their gateway. All right, this was really, really, really fun. Not only doing my own questions, but especially seeing other people's videos and having them answer the questions and seeing what they like and hearing their stories. Now, I guess it's my turn to tag someone. So I'm going to tag, if they haven't already been tagged, I'm going to tag David from the Vinyl Score. But there's a chance David has already been tagged. So I hope I'm not cheating because I'm going to tag someone else because David might already been tagged. But I want to tag my friend Mario Alegres from Proxima Tanda. And Mario is perhaps the first person I talked about film score with. He and I used to do a podcast back in the day in Puerto Rico, and we talked about soundtracks, and he really likes soundtracks. So I'm curious what his answers are. So Mario, you are tagged on the soundtrack challenge.